What was the moment, experience, or maybe even a person that has inspired you to go into the field of cybersecurity?
Probably the early days, it was just when I was 3 years old and I figured out how to press Ctrl-Alt-Delete. Maybe sometimes I also hacked in terms of others were using the computer.
What would you say you're the most proud of?
I think I was always tried always to be somehow the bridge maker between technology and business, and I think that is also a little bit reflecting the career that I did.
Interesting area, because we have so many opportunities arising right now, but also so many threats at the same time.
So also about securing our future, because otherwise, of course, you can really trash a lot of money and a lot of resources, because if a company is really hacked, now I think it's artificial intelligence, of course.
Machines that might one day outnumber us or outsmart us. Do we risk losing control?
In recent studies, you see already that not only in fake news and fake videos and fake calls, there is a lot of potential how the outside world can use this technology, unfortunately, also for attacking companies.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Probably to say no, and also then really trying to, making sure this no is understood.
And Christian, looking back on everything you've built, the risks you took, and the lives you've impacted, what's the legacy you hope to leave behind?
That's a very good question. What I see as heritage is probably in each and everybody I interacted with. So for me, I think it was always nice working with people on different settings, on different projects.
So the 3-year-old boy sitting in front of the computer would be proud of you today.
I don't know. You have to ask my mom.
Welcome to a new episode of the Once Upon a Student, a place where we uncover the untold stories of extraordinary individuals. Imagine building your company from scratch, pouring your soul into it, and then one day letting it go. That's exactly what today's guest, Christian Polster, did with his cybersecurity company when he successfully exited it in 2022. But Christian's story goes well beyond the company. Armed with multiple academic degrees, a technical foundation, dual studies in business and engineering, Christian crafted a career full of intentional choices and smart risks. So if you're interested in the art of building companies, make career-defining decisions, or navigating life after a big exit, you're right in the right place. Christian, it's great to have you with us today. Hello.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you very much for accepting the invitation. And Christian, you seem like a very private person to me. No interviews, no previous podcasts. What keeps you out of the public eye? And what's the one secret you believe in was the secret to your success?
Well, I guess that's cybersecurity about, so security by obscurity. No, just kidding. So I think it was just a coincidence that I was more the Minister of Interiors in the previous companies, and others were more on the sales and PR side. But I think over the last years, also that changed. So you will find some, of course, articles and interviews as well. But yeah, I think maybe that's also one of the, let's say, secret recipes to know in which time of the, how to say, career and life path you probably should do what. But I think trying out everything in the right time is also a good setting. So nice that the first podcast is with you then.
That's amazing. It's really a pleasure to have you here as my guest. So during the first years, you focused more on getting the business right from the internal perspective. Yeah?
Yes, I think that was, how to say, the task to make everything going from organizational structures and structures there. But of course, also financing, in the first years, you need to build a solid foundation. And that was also one of the things to get to know all the possibilities to get public funding. So that was, of course, one of the major tasks in the beginning. Yeah.
That's amazing. And as you now spoke at the beginning, let's go back to it. What was the moment, experience, or maybe even a person that has inspired you to go into the field of cybersecurity?
probably the early days, it was just when I was 3 years old and I figured out how to press Control Alt Delete, and the computer could then respond again because the program or the computer as such was stuck. So probably that was, let's say, the first interactions with computers as such, and maybe sometimes I also hacked in terms of others were using the computer, but I knew already how to press Control Alt Delete as a 3-year-old boy. So might be that I hacked some statistical programs or something. No, and I think the major topic then afterwards was only later. Of course, playing around with computers once they emerged, like C64, Amiga, and everything in that age. But I think the really step then into security was probably when the internet really was available for private. That was about 1995, 1996, 1997. At least in Vienna, Austria. So that was that time. And then, of course, you could read about others being able to do some, quite interesting stuff via their small modem, that not only being able to surf on the internet, but also to connect to other computers. And that was always interesting to understand how are guys able to do that, if it's probably not allowed, but also why does nobody care about to secure somehow the different computers and servers in a better way. And probably that was, let's say, the initial interaction that gave me a little bit hint about security. And of course, I could not tell about a lot of things that happened and afterwards, but I think these were the starting point. Yeah.
I feel you're very passionate about computers and electronics. And actually, we share one similar trajectory, because my dad, always when I was young, around 3 to 4 years, there are even pictures of me, like I was playing in front of the computer already, trying out things. So my curiosity was also sparked super early on. And how have you pursued this curiosity for electronics, for cybersecurity? Because you mentioned in a conversation we once shared that you started at a internship at a very small company which has also been working in cybersecurity. Tell me the journey a bit.
Well, I think that was one of the steps there where I was at the higher technical school, so HTL in Austria. And as you said, there I made an intern, or there was the need to do an intern, and I could join this company. It was a very small company, 4 to 6 people. And at that time, it was very interesting for me to see what does the company do and what are the different, areas, also in the small company, of course. And over the time there, on the one side, I could a little bit interact more about the topic of security, but also on the other side, understand, how can myself contribute even on a younger age to that, let's say, company in a small scale, of course. Yeah, the intern was then the beginning, doing work there for a full month. But as I had a lot of fun, and seems to be also the colleagues. They said, "Hey, can you maybe besides your school come for some hours and help us out with certain things?" And that was, of course, fantastic, because on the one side I had the, let's say, theoretical learning curve at school, but some of that I could really directly work with then on a really business basis. And over the time, of course, I did more internships. I did more of different topics there, and also try to a little bit, not only do programming and computer stuff, but also had a little bit of insight into marketing and sales. So that was the possibility here to, in early days, really understand how a company is working. And of course, the second probably very sparking information and knowledge that I got is how a company can grow over time. So as I said, it was a smaller company, 4 to 6 people back in that day. So, and then until the company then, and that was, let's say, more or less the first exit, 2000 actually. That was then a company with 60, 70 employees, having offices in the United States, Japan, and in some locations in Europe. And that was the first time I saw, that there's interest in companies, even if you are in, at that time, small Vienna in my eyes. It was not that hopefully now even better, but not that startup mentality country as well as city probably. But yeah, it was possible. Yeah, so there were international companies in that time from US and UK that were looking for intelligent companies with a specific portfolio, of course, at that time. But yeah, that was possible even then. And yeah, that was very interesting to see on the growth side, but also on the exit side, of course, but all the journey in between, of course.
So you stayed on until the company exited, yes?
Yeah, it was the first exit, and then I even was longer in the company until I think it was 2005, where then my studies were finished, and also then the company more and more, of course, changed, and then not only myself but others also said, "Oh, that's probably a good phase to think about a new challenge." And yeah, as this was of course, a smaller company with, of course, international context. My idea a little bit after the studies, of course, and during the studies, probably you always learn about the big companies and what they can do, and about brand and organizations and management style and so forth. And of course, in a smaller company, yes, you also have that, but of course in a smaller scale. So for me, it was, of course, interesting also to go to one of the big names. And yeah, then that was the decision made to see what is out there, probably not in Austria. And then, yeah, some colleagues left to other companies like IBM or to other big names. And yeah, I was then ready to go and leave a little bit of Austria and Vienna, even though I did that before, but not for working reasons. And so, I found quite a good offer in Germany with Deutsche Lufthansa German Airlines. And yeah, that was then the next step in my career.
And tell me your secret, because I'm super curious how you managed to do it. You studied 2 double degrees at the VU and the TU, and on the other hand, you were also working for the company.
Yeah.
How have you managed your time during that phase?
Well, I could now say I'm super structured and everything, but I think the major how to say possibilities that I gained, and also advantages that I made myself, was probably the higher technical school I was talking a little bit before, because there we had, probably after the first years in school, really an environment and setting where it was I would say the first glimpse of how to work and how you can effectively work, and so I think we really learned on how to make a good and structured way of doing your stuff and your tasks. Yeah. And as it was also a school where you not only had, 30 hours a week, it was about 40 hours a week, and a lot of, I would say, craftsmanship as well as theoretical part. You really had to understand, okay, what does that mean if you write very good structured manual on how to do some craftsmanship? Then of course it was easier and more successful that you can do things. And I think this was I would say a very good first glimpse on where you can be effective and how to be effective. And I guess also at that time we very early learned how to do project work, how to work together in teams, how to set up the project from where to store your files until who is writing the protocols, etc. And so that gave, I would say, a lot of possibilities to then use that knowledge in project work on different occasions, when we studied something, when we did some seminar work. And of course, yes, we also did our late shifts and did some work until 1 minute before midnight, because that was the closure time to
I think that's unavoidable.
hand in something of that. So yes, but it was fun, and I think then the next day either you slept long or you had to stand up and wake up early, because there was, mathematics in the morning at 8 o'clock, of course. But I think we were also, as I studied with colleagues from the higher technical school, I think also we knew how do we interact, and sometimes, of course, only one person joined one of the courses, and the others were able to distract and do other stuff. So I think we had a very good team on the one side, and on the other side, of course, knew how to balance and structure everything. And of course, then on the other side, it's not, of course, then fully 2 studies, because some of the things are, of course, the same. Yeah, so you have some accounting, finance on both sides, but of course, still you have to do the exams and you have to do the different papers there. Why we did that with the 2 studies was more or less because we said, it's more logic from our high technical school to go to the technical university, because you can even more learn about how to program certain things and do more stuff in terms of architecture and stuff. But always with the combination of business. And then, of course, doing all the economics, micro and macroeconomic stuff, as well as also, and I think that was the very good decision, doing all the focused semesters then on entrepreneurship, innovation and stuff. That was at that time not that big at technical university. So I would think we tried to put together our, calendar and schedule out of 2 studies, where we said, well, that gives us the most knowledge and the most interesting stuff, what we thought at that time would help us in the future. So that to the university. And then with regard to working besides that, of course, it was challenging. Yeah. And of course, that meant sometimes you couldn't just freely say when you will learn and when you will have free time. But I think we kind of found that way more interesting to participate in a even other round of people. That was at that time the style also my colleagues had. Yeah, they were all somehow working in smaller and bigger companies, not full time, but we thereby gained, of course, also again knowledge that we could use for certain seminar papers, presentations, and it was sometimes really interesting to say, hey, I have a problem at work. Can we discuss that and not do a theoretical example? And sometimes professors were very eager because they said, if that is that's a first-hand insight, interesting that you have the problem. So Christian, please, can you tell us what is the problem statement? And then the whole audience was discussing. And then you went home and could say next day at work, hey, I have probably a new solution for that.
Oh, that's amazing. So you also combine your work and your university together, like helping both studies at the same time.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's great. That's great. And you mentioned Lufthansa. So tell me about your next step. So this was the point where you finished your master's degrees at both universities. Yeah. And then you went on to Germany to work at Lufthansa.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was then I would say, of course, a very different setting. Yeah. Big company, 100,000 plus employees, having, I would say, employees on each and every continent. And of course, that was very different. Also, the major difference between Austria and Germany. You don't have to forget that. But no, just kidding. But I think that was, of course, then something to understand that in Austria, sometimes you say, we'll see tomorrow, which means, we'll take our time and then we'll think about it. In Germany, it's more than say, no, we'll decide it right now. So we have to go on. So I think there are differences, but I think this, you learn that I think in the first days and weeks. But it's a different mood, a different mentality. But from the, let's say, organizational side and from what the setting is, of course, that's very different. If you compare it to a small company, you can go to different people and you probably in, small lunch, you really know what's happening in the company. With a big company, you cannot do that. You just see your colleagues in a close proximity. You are able to go maybe to the hierarchy on the same level and maybe one hierarchy up, but going to, let's say, several other hierarchies, it's not very, polite, and so there are a lot of, I would say, rules that you of course have to understand. And on the other side, you also see that not everything is decided as it's in a smaller company. Yeah, so there are formal processes. There's a clear matter on power. So who is able to decide what until which, financial numbers, and so you really have to learn the recipe of the organization by the end of the day, so that you can play with the same knowledge about the recipe. And therefore that is, I would say, kind of a different work style. On the other side, of course, there is a lot of knowledge in the company. Yeah, so you have experts in various fields, which is a smaller company, for example, it's sometimes hard to get, or you cannot afford it. Yeah, so I think that was a lot of things that from that time I could really learn. And of course, the job position that I had as executive assistant was, of course, very delightful there to really see from quite high angle what's happening in the company, and then being close to really strategic decisions that will come up in the next years with projects, with new innovation. And so, of course, that was very interesting to understand where a big company like that is heading, but also what is needed to keep everybody on board and to inform everybody, because it's nothing you can discuss while having a coffee. You really need to think about a bigger setting on how you keep everybody motivated, how you keep everybody informed. And that means not only the employees, it means also the suppliers, each and every stakeholder. And I think there was a lot to learn, a lot of interesting people you could meet, of course, with a lot of international background. I was also part of a leadership program where we regularly met and did some projects, and we had colleagues from Brazil and from South Africa and from Asia, and we were allowed to travel also to meet them, because there were assignments then also with the sponsors in these projects on different areas. So there were a lot of course, possibilities besides the possibilities to jump into a plane on quite cheap fares at that time and have a look at the world. So of course that was something that each and every Lufthansa employee liked in their free time, to just see which airplanes and which seats are available and go through the world and see what's happening there. So of course that was not only on business side but also on private side a nice side effect. And so I was able also to see what's happening in the world. Yeah.
That's great. What was the most interesting country you visited at that time?
Most interesting country. I think what was interesting is like doing a around the world trip in 2 weeks. We did that because we didn't have more time at that occasion. And so we flew, hopefully I get it right, we flew from Germany at that time to China, from China to Japan, and then from Japan to Hawaii, then to San Francisco, and then back home. So, but we had, of course, some stops in the meantime and looked at good sites. So that was nice just to see in one go really different cultures. So that was very cool. And then, of course, I think South America, South Africa, just because it's nature-wise and people-wise different. That's, of course, something I still remember as a very, very interesting travel we did. Yeah.
How old were you at that point?
I was, when I started at Lufthansa, I was 25. And that was the...
Much experience already, that's like such a young age.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was the beginning. And then I was about 5 years, 6 years there. So that was the time. And so, I think you, in that young age, of course, you also, your brain is fresh. You are possible to get information a lot into your brain. And that was, of course, very nice.
And how does doing business with huge companies and corporates differ from doing business with small companies?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think I tried a little bit explain already what I see as differences. Doing business, I think, is also, of course, another game where I, of course, say that in my later occasions that helped me a lot to work for Lufthansa and understand how such a big corporation is having certain processes and different milestones in between and gates. So I think the big companies, you will have interaction with several people and with several departments. Of course, most of the time the leading department then is the procurement, where all the negotiations, everything that is, let's say, legally bound as well as financially bound is done with them. And then, of course, you have your stakeholder that you will do and deliver your product, your service to. So you always have these two parties. Plus probably if it's bigger, then you have legal department, you have probably several other areas, which means doing business with bigger companies always means you have to be able to steer and go through that process. So that puts probably a burden on smaller companies. You also, let's say, need to shadow them somehow. You need to have somehow legal procurement. You have to have negotiation skills, etc. So I think the burden with bigger ones is always that, there's more overhead. There is more interaction needed. And because, of course, there are some formalities, it will take longer. Yeah. But if you achieve that, if you are able to really, make this pitch, make this offer, make the first steps actually into these corporations, then of course it can be a great gift because you not only will get revenue by that, and probably hopefully if it's a big company also bigger revenue than with smallers, but you will learn a lot, because as you have all experts there from various fields, and if you carefully listen what they need and what they probably foresee, how the industry, how their business will actually evolve over the years, then of course you can incorporate that into your product, into your service. And having one of the, let's say, bigger corporations as probably an early customer can of course have also benefits in terms of making that the ideal customer, making your product and service aligned to that on a perspective of an entrepreneur. And then in a later stage, of course, you can have your innovation cycles, your strategic meetings with the customer, and making sure that that you integrate as good as possible these wishes, because most of the time also other big corporations will have the same needs. Of course, if they are industry specific, probably you have to differentiate here, but in general, I think you can learn a lot. And on the contrary, if you have a, let's say, mid-sized, smaller company, then it might be that you only have one or two go-to guys that will discuss with you. So it's more familiar. You will be able to discuss and negotiate in a smaller amount of time with a smaller effort. But of course, they don't have that number of people. They don't have probably all the knowledge in-house. So they will, of course, more want to have you as a consultant. Yeah, they would like to have you as trusted advisor they can go to and probably ask the one or the other extra question. So you probably are quicker, but then you will have probably more effort in starting the interaction, doing the right service for them, shaping the service. And sometimes you also have to wait for the customer because they don't have the resources to, let's say, internally align with the organization, with everything they need to really get the most value out of your product and your service. So if you're smart, of course, you can say, okay, I will offer you also somehow the consulting package or setup package or something, and then you help that. But then you have to have these persons on your side that will more or less help. So I think what you can probably summarize out of that is they are different. You need to shape your product and services accordingly, not only in pricing, not only in probably offer and product statement, but you also have to make sure the path to the most value for the company will be different in both occasions. But if you know that, and if you can align that with your team, with your peers, I think in both areas you can have great success. And I think even one of the most important things you can do as entrepreneurs, listen to the customers. Yeah, from the early days on, they will tell you exactly what is right and what is wrong. And even if you don't hear it internally, go to your customers. They will bluntly tell you if something is not working out, if they're not satisfied. So that is, I think, one of the important things managers of companies should always do, like spend time with the customers and really try to make sure that they have a good relationship. Then also, if something happens, you are able to have a direct communication, a direct touch possibility to sort it out. If you always shy away from customer contact, then might be that one day you will miss this connection, actually.
This could be quite difficult, yeah. And I recently had a conversation with a super smart entrepreneur, and she has told me one very interesting aspect of collaborating with other companies is to always remain curious. And I think that assembles very well what you just told. Be curious
Yeah, that's
and
exactly.
get to know your other part very well, so you can also offer them the perfect package. And afterwards, you founded the company together with your co-founders, your cybersecurity company. What drove that decision? Because you had a very stable, secure position at Lufthansa. Was it rather a calculated move, or you had this emotion in yourself, now I want to do it by myself?
I would say several factors probably. Yeah, I think one of the, of course, discussions with yourself you have is like, okay, now you know both worlds. You know, small world, big world. So big company, small company you're working in, and you have that feeling. So what, is more attractive to you? What is more appealing? What drives you more? And of course, I think one of the it's not a secret in a bigger organization. It takes longer that you see that one of your work, one of your projects, one of your decisions and parts will make it to some impact. So the time is longer, the cycles are longer. In a smaller company, there are many decisions, many things you can impact directly, and so overall, that was probably one of the areas where I said, I think it's more the smaller environment again. And then, of course, in the setting, and also, of course, in the overall possibilities at that time, were different ways to conquer, like going even more abroad or going into other companies of the same size. I found it then more interesting to just say, well, in the past, I saw growing a small company bigger. Now I have the knowledge about bigger companies, what is their pros and cons, and how to work with them. And maybe that is also important. I saw also what is security about in a big company like Lufthansa, and saw that there is everywhere some sort of struggle in terms of how to do certain things with security. And I think overall, then one thing led to another. One of my colleagues that was also at the first security company were in steady contact, and then we were discussing what possibilities there are, and he had some other contacts to other guys that had also founded or would have had another company, also a little bit in the security area. And then over some discussions, there was a clear idea what to do, and then that was the foundation stone for the new company. Yeah.
Did you already know that you want to go big with the company? So
well, to certain extent, at that time, the discussion, of course, was, okay, is that something, or at the first time you have a sort of a glimpse, is that a company that will do a steady business, and you don't need big growth because it will anyways be steady growth overall. Or do you have the glimpse and the feeling that this is the right timing, but there is a certain moment that you need to use until you probably get into the next cycle. Yeah, and IT and cybersecurity as such probably is a cyclical economy in terms of trends and newest products and services. So I guess if you are eager to found your own company in that area, you always have to think of, okay, there will be a certain time, and this time you can use until you grow to a certain size, a certain market share, etc. But then I think history always says then there will be only 2 or 3 at the end, which of course is not true for every area, but like in each and every industry, you see that after a certain period of innovation, there will be some trendsetters, and there will be some companies that will be overtaken, and then somehow the whole ecosystem is changing. So to answer your question, by the end of the day, the idea was to try to grow that company, and then either bring it to a somehow of public trading, or then other way to sell shares or sell it as a whole to competitors or interesting companies. And I think that was from the initial start always the ultimate goal, even though nobody said it must be in 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. I think that was not set from the beginning. Yeah.
I think it's difficult to put a time frame if you're doing some big innovations. It's always like you have an end goal, and if you reach in 3 or 8 years, there are also external factors you cannot influence.
Exactly.
And fast forward to 2022 when you successfully exit your company. Tell me a bit more about the journey from founding the company to successfully exiting it. Have you taken external capital or was it bootstrapped? How did you pursue the journey?
Now, from the beginning, it was clear that we also tried to get investors on board. So the first and initial starting point, as I said earlier, was trying to get public funding. So we got grants from Austrian organizations that were at that time and even still doing a really great job in terms of supporting companies in the area of research and development. So we had the possibility there to get some grants to do, I would say, our groundwork or co-work with the area of cybersecurity we did at that time. And that helped a lot, actually, to really set the basis, make sure that everything is right from the beginning. And then, of course, by that, it was easier to get private investors on board. So that was also in combination with the public funding to have some silent shareholders by the end of the day that were supporting us. And then I think next step was, of course, getting some customers, and with that we were able to get the first private equity fund on board, taking a smaller share, but of course with that we could drive internationalization. With the internationalization, especially to Germany and Switzerland, we of course could attract other very well-known companies, and over the time, I think that was then really the possibility with more revenues and more of a interesting customer portfolio to have a look at other bigger private equity funds or even strategic acquirers. So that was then back in 2017, actually, when we started our first process to say, yes, we are eager to get an investor on board, because it was clear for us that there was a lot of other vendors and other companies out there that were funded, especially from the US, that were entering also more and more the European market.
So it was difficult to compete with it.
It was difficult because we had our position as being from Europe, doing our style of cybersecurity services in a European manner and a European fashion and aligned with European legislation and regulation, which at that time the US-based companies couldn't do out of the US. So therefore, I think we had our clear statement and clear value proposition. But of course, in terms of marketing and sales, the pockets were deeper there. And you had to look at how to also compete with them and make your call. But I think that was a good way. And then at that time we were able to get an investor on board for, I would say, the next phase after 2018 then. And that helped, of course, also to professionalize when it's about management, when it's about business decisions, about strategy, and about, of course, customer basis, customer portfolio, customer interaction. And and then last but not least, as you said, then was decision to make the final exit together. And then we did that in 2022. Yeah.
Congratulations once again on the successful exit. How has it felt?
Only the time of the exit or the whole process then?
Let's start with the process.
The process. Well, to recap, decision was made somewhere, I think it was beginning 2021. So it was mid of Corona. All the, I would say, unclear economic situation in terms of lockdowns and others. But of course, cybersecurity went very well. Yeah, so because of the shift from everybody in the offices now to home office, were new, I would say, attack vectors, new possibilities on what could happen, new threats. And cybersecurity was, a very important area at that time. So I think market was very good. And on the other side, of course, there was not that much momentum as it was before, because everybody was looking, okay, what is happening? What is overall the economic situation? But at that time, the decision was made to do that. So I think it was very well structured. We had our advisors, everything you need to do in terms of preparing for the process. And then, of course, you spend a lot of time with doing, let's say, the first interactions with potential partners, potential buyers, which, of course, is besides the normal daily work and operations, a heavy burden. Because you, of course, need to be focused on the daily business, because you need to go on. The figures must be appropriate. Every problem you need to solve as you would do on a regular basis. But you have this small side task as it is there, which of course nearly consumes probably the same amount of time you do on your daily work. So of course that is then a challenging time. And besides that, of course, and with the time flying by, then there was suddenly 2022, and economic situation in February changed again. So, of course, there were also changes in interested parties because they withdrew because the economic situation for them changed drastically. And so overall, it was, of course, a very long time and very exhaustive. But of course, then to be able to successfully bring the company to the next step in terms of having then a strategic partner that really can do the next step with the company, and integrating that into a bigger setting is of course something that you worked for, where you, as you were asking in the beginning, said, once we will sell the company. And for us, it was more or less the logical step. Yeah.
So it was more kind of a relief after successfully.
Well, of course, if you're looking for the M&A process and the whole time you spend, then of course, you know now, okay, that's a major milestone, and you were able to do so. But of course, the work was not ending. So of course, afterwards is the post-merger integration. Of course, that also needs to be successful in terms of making sure the company is going further and doing great afterwards. And so, work is not stopping, but of course you can focus only on that. And there is no, let's say, that big side project anymore.
What was the biggest challenge founding your company?
Biggest challenge? I think overall, of course, there were always challenges. But I think the biggest is then always in the beginning to get the next round of right people in terms of if you are only the founders, then of course you know what everybody can do. But of course, then to get the first people right in terms of making sure that they understand what you would like to do, and they understand it and trying to do it in the same way that you would like to have it. Of course, that is challenging and important. Let's put it this way. And overall, I think also maybe a little bit to the entrepreneurial landscape in Austria. I think still, and I think there was a lot of improvement, but I think the phase between the first initial funding until then having really growth financing, that's still something where you cannot probably really succeed in Austria. So you have to go out. And Austria is not that big and not that, overall well-known, or was not well-known at that time, which I think now with, of course, startups and scale-ups that are now from Vienna as well in Austria. I think that changed over the last years drastically and dramatically. But at that time, it was, this step was kind of not that easy, even though there were a lot of potential, a lot of inquiries. But I think that was, something that we really had to work on, and that was hard work. Yeah.
I can imagine. And how have you found the right employees for your company?
I think by the end of the day, it's really I think, the gut feeling very often. So if you are eager to go afterwards with somebody for a beer, I think that is always most of the time the right person to work with also in a company, because you spend a lot of time there. You need, I think, colleagues that really are, like friends. And if you can achieve that, and if you, of course, have a solid knowledge about what you're doing, and kind of share the same enthusiasm about a certain topic, that of course helps a lot. But I think it's really the mentality, the empathy, and if you have that, I think that is really key. And I think here it's very important to understand what are certain people looking for. Yeah, is it the very well structured organization where everything is already written to paper, and you go there in the morning and leave at 5, and each and every day it will be the same? Or will you have a setting where smart people can really drive improvements, drive changes, drive innovation, make sure the company is successful, and this working environment attracts then of course other people. So therefore I said it was hard to get the right people in the beginning, because that is the multiplier. If they will tell, this is a very nice working environment, and look what we did, and great stuff here in the area of operations, programming, marketing, sales, that multiplies, of course, because smart people of course know that management always tells the very nice pictures and what they are up to and what will happen. But on a daily basis, the work will be done in other areas. And so it's very important to have these multipliers by the end of the day on different areas. And I think that was one of the success factors here, really, to had good friends on all areas and levels, and made sure that they felt comfortable, but also saw the goal. And maybe coming back to the big companies and the corporations there, I think there you really understand that you need this communication. You need this communication from top to bottom, but also from bottom to top, to really understand what are the different problems, what are the different views on one and the same topic. And this dialogue and this information sharing and interaction, then on a daily basis nearly, I think that is also very important, especially in settings like home office and remote workers, and probably being on different areas on a continent or several continents. We really have to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and does know if he makes a decision or she makes a decision on a daily basis, what does that mean for the overall business then. Yeah.
So like communication is one of the most important things. Yeah.
Of course, that's also how then you in the long run, of course, being able to have people on board, have employees on board that like to work in your setting.
Yeah. And how did the experience exiting your company feel personally? Was it fulfilling, bittersweet, or something in between?
I think personally it was like one chapter done. Yeah. So like in the past, as we were talking about, there was a chapter about graduating from a high technical school. There was one chapter then that we left the first security company. So I think everything has a starting point and an end point. And personally, yes, we were talking about the number of hours you spend on an M&A process. Of course, it was rewarding to say, okay, I finished something now, and there can be another focus, and there are not the early calls and the late calls anymore with regard to certain urgent topics, with regard to M&A. But of course, you have them in business as well. But it was, of course, then, as you said, there's some sort of personal relief also to say, another thing finished. But still, I think what you said before, it was then being again curious, okay, how does the post-merger integration do? How are we able to really make now the next step for the company? And that was again something new, and therefore curious to try to make everything in the right steps and with the right decisions. Yeah.
So one chapter done, what's the next one?
What's the next one? Well, I would say, as then as I said, 2022 was the exit, and then of course I only recently officially ended then my assignment in a company It's not that, let's say, long ago that now I'm really out of the company. So yeah, there are of course ideas. So I think cybersecurity is very interesting. So that is of course one of the areas I still want to and will be involved in. What are the other trends? Back then it was in the early days the internet. Then it was probably the bigger way on how to interact on the internet and the first big hacks that happened. So now I think it's artificial intelligence, of course, that probably is in cybersecurity very often only another name for the algorithms and statistical models we used for the last, 8 years, 6 years, 5 years. But still, of course, there are some very interesting possibilities now to combine artificial intelligence with cybersecurity, because in recent studies you see already that not only in fake news and fake videos and fake calls with very, very clear messages on very well-spoken German even, that there is a lot of potential how the outside world can use this technology, unfortunately, also for attacking companies. But of course, you can do something about it and also use this technology internally and try, of course, to leverage it and say in different areas how to even faster program certain new detection algorithms, even faster use it for making newest monitoring and protection mechanisms. And by the end of the day, of course, also to help automatizing and standardizing certain work so that your employees, that workers in the area of security can focus on things that are probably a little bit more difficult to solve or more different to understand because they involve probably also actions that a human did or it was some insider threats. So I think it's also a little bit about getting your co-pilot by the end of the day in a daily work integrated and make sure that these tasks are fulfilled so you have more time and more freedom to do other work. So I think it's as the internet changed our lives, as home office changed our life, now it's about, of course, artificial intelligence and cybersecurity as a very fast-moving industry, of course, will integrate that and is integrating that already. So I think that is very interesting. And of course, on the other side, the knowledge I gained with regard to the business as such and how to do business in cybersecurity, but in general, how to found companies and trying to grow it over different steps and areas. That's, of course, also where people are interested about my knowledge. So I guess somewhere in this area between cybersecurity, AI, and entrepreneurship and startup scale-ups, that will probably a good area where you will find me in the future as well.
Yeah, probably. We're entering a quite, like you already mentioned, interesting area because we have so many opportunities arising right now, but also so many threats at the same time. So I think cybersecurity will become one of the most important aspects of the near future, at least, because you told me the AI and algorithm have been already known for such a long time, but they were made public for like around 1 year ago. So everyone starts using it now. So I think there will be many threats arising with that as well.
Yeah, I think you already said it. So it's a threat, of course, to our economy, and in certain areas we already saw what that probably is about and what that will bring. And so I think it's also a little bit of giving back to the society and giving back to the whole economy, to say if you are really investing in cybersecurity and really making here smart moves, then it's also about securing our future, because otherwise, of course, you can really trash a lot of money and a lot of resources, because if a company is really hacked and needs then to redo the whole business, or even is so hacked that it goes bankrupt, then of course, there is not much gain afterwards. And I think so cybersecurity is probably one of the cornerstones, one of the foundation for the future, where you need to base on a lot of things from state to nation state actions as well as in of course business and private life. So it's sometimes already seen as commodity, but on the other side, of course, it's something that with the term out of the security you should think of before you implement and do something. So security by design is a principle, of course, that is now more and more known, but unfortunately not everywhere used still. But I think that is important on all areas. Yeah.
I totally agree on that. And looking back over everything we talked about today, your whole career, your personal life, what would you say you're the most proud of?
Most proud of? Probably to be able to balance all of that over that long period of time. Of course, what you already said is to be really curious about things. That helped, of course, a lot. Because if you are curious, if you would like to understand why, for example, something not worked out well, you can always use these knowledge in a later stage. And I think this curiosity is something that seems I had all the time, and that helped me, of course, from being a young boy, as I said in the beginning, on looking what combination of with which keyboard keys is actually doing what I wanted to do, or what probably didn't foresee what will happen. But on the other side, then trying to understand what the new trends and the new functionalities that are out there, I always try to balance that. And probably also the other area that we discussed on is how to make sure that you can also bring that fuse together from different areas. I think I was always and tried always to be somehow the bridge maker between technology and business. And I think that is also a little bit reflecting the career that I did. So I had a high technical school where both areas were learned, where we discussed that. At university, I did business and business informatics. In the later stages, then I always had on the one side an eye on the technology and the technology used, but on the other side also how to make a product out of it, how to commercialize it. And how to make sure the customer and others are understanding what is beneath the product and the service. So, I think I always try to bridge that world, or these both areas, and that helped me probably that I can and being able to speak a little bit in both areas, and it seems that others are understanding me in that areas. So, I think that is probably one of also the success factors or things that helped me. Yeah.
So the 3-year-old boy sitting in front of the computer would be proud of you today.
I don't know. You have to ask my mom if that is the case. But I'm happy that I was able to do the journey until here, and I'm of course more eager now to go further and see what future will bring.
Yeah, I see you have still a fire in you. And what's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice, I guess, look for your health and be patient. So I think that's one of the important areas of life that you probably, as it is always, learn too late or really understand too late. Because if you're young, then you say, I've sleep, who needs sleep? Or of course I can do more. But of course, if you get older and older, and of course, IT and cybersecurity always means sitting in front of a computer. That's of course something that is not ideal, and I think it's very important to balance here and try to have your time as well. Because I think what you in the later stage then learn is if you are not healthy, if you are not being very well rested. Then of course you probably do not take smart decisions. You do not make the best move. You do not reflect what you should do as a leader, and have already thought about strategy plans, future moves, etc. And the same is true for private life. Yeah, if you are always exhausted and don't feel well, then it's hard to care for the family. And I think that balance is what is very important. Of course, it's trendy to have work-life balance and all this wording, but I think the really challenge is to integrate that into your schedule, to integrate that in your daily routine, and making sure, that this is possible. So not only work hard on the business and what you like to achieve, but also understand that, as some are saying, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you have to have some resources also for the last sprint and mile, which is hopefully way further down the road. But I think it's a good picture probably. Yeah.
I love the quote, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Was there a specific routine that helped you maintain this balance?
I would say one of the things was, of course, trying to focus on something positive before going to bed. Really reflecting what was a good success or what was very well achieved over the day. Because even you have a lot of problems all the day, but I think really refocusing on the one side on a daily basis, even though in hard times there were good things, is important. And I think also to have some possibility to reflect on a quarterly or half-year basis. Are you still on track? Means what you personally want to achieve. Yeah. Is still the goal that you set for yourself, or even probably it's not really clear set, but you have the feeling what is now right, what is wrong, if that is still the case. And I think that is very important to do that on a regular basis, not because it's cool and because literature says it, but I think it's just a matter of making sure that you still understand you are doing the right decisions on the right way, and it feels also okay that way. It could also be that you say, well, no, this was the goal, but so much external things changed as we discussed. Maybe I should also change my goal, and that's fair enough. I think you cannot foresee everything. Might be that the goal was right for the last half year, but now it's different. And I think then you also have to be fair enough to yourself and say, well, sometimes in life you just have to have this change, and better to do it now than just go on and it's not working out then after a long time, but you already spent the time for that. Yeah.
I agree with that, because the world is changing so quick.
Yeah.
I always ask myself, why do we people think that we should never change, Because...
Yeah, but I think that's how to say that's humans, that we like that everything is going as we know, yeah. And therefore I think it's important to just stand still for a short period of time and say, hey, what did I do? Did I now do for 6 months? And why didn't I change that, for example? Yeah. And I think that's okay. I think that's normal, but therefore you need these breaks, and maybe then also having these bigger breaks. Yeah. So I had probably always my breaks like after probably 10 years. Yeah. 8 to 10 years. Then you have something that you said, okay, I did that now, but now something probably bigger I need to change. Yeah.
And what was the worst advice you ever received?
The worst advice? How to say? Probably, no, we are not getting into that. That's too political. Yeah, so...
Next question.
No, I think we can also talk about it. I think it's a matter of, I think sometimes, yes, let's say if you do it in a business context, it doesn't make sense to go on for certain things, yeah, because you will not succeed, you will spend more time, more money, and you cannot do anything about the decision being made, positive or negative, for your business, for example. So I think, but on the other side, of course, if you would always do that, where do you get the bigger and drastic change? So where are you able to, make something or make somebody else doing a different decision that he would probably made all the time for the last 12 or 15 years? Yeah. So I think that is probably important to, for yourself, reflect and say, is that advice now something I should take for granted? And that's really it. Or do I feel that it's right in certain occasions, but in others, no, why should I really do that? And why not trying it? And of course, after 3 times, probably you should not do it again. But yeah, probably not for a curious guy to not trying to understand why certain decisions are made.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to accept that some battles are just
Sure.
a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
And Christian, looking back on everything you've built, the risks you took, and the lives you've impacted, what's the legacy you hope to leave behind?
Ah, that's a very good question. Well, of course, it's nice if somebody reads about you or reads about the achievements you had in the past. I think what I see as his heritage is probably in each and everybody I interacted with. So for me, I think it was always nice working with people on different settings, on different projects. And if they all say, we had great fun, great success, and Christian was there, and everybody played a interesting role, and together we achieved something. And a lot of people are remembering these occasions in university, school, business. I think that would be a nice heritage.
You definitely did that. And last but not least, what advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self, probably something that, of course, is always a hard part in various occasions, but probably to say no, and also then really trying to making sure this no is understood. Sorry. What I do mean with that is during the ride in companies, you of course have multiple options, multiple possibilities. But of course, what is dangerous is if you're getting too broad, if you're getting into different areas. And I think on certain occasions, of course, it's very important, and also to say, no, my feeling says this is getting too much in that or this direction. This is something that is probably not in line with the overall goal that we would like to achieve. And I think if you have that feeling, and you can, in an ideal case, of course, also underpin it with certain numbers and facts and so forth, you should really make sure that this is understood, and also try to convince others, because what is then, of course, worse if you have some sort of legacy out of that, and then in later times you have to change that under probably different setting, which is even more difficult, more resource intense. So I would say in certain occasions, looking back, I would say that would be something where being more clear, more straight on that, and probably also making sure that this is understood is something that could have helped, and probably what I would like to have made a little bit different. Yeah.
So Christian, thank you very much once again for sharing your story with me, with us, and also with the very positive note how you ended this conversation now. I'm super curious on your future career, and I will for sure have a look on it. So wish you all success, and thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you very much also, and it was a pleasure having this discussion today.
Thank you very much. My pleasure as well.